Hello, our passage today is from the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 18, verses 1 to 14. And these verses recount two parables told by Jesus. The first one in verses 1 to 8 is the parable of the persistent widow. And the second one in verses 9 to 14 is the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. So the parable of the persistent widow. Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. He said, in a certain town there was a judge who neither feared God nor cared about men. And there was a widow in that town who kept coming to him with the plea, grant me justice against my adversary. For some time he refused, but finally he said to himself, even though I don't fear God or care about men, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice so that she won't eventually wear me out with her coming. And the Lord said, listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice and quickly. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? The parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. To some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood up and prayed about himself. God, I thank you that I am not like other men, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Well, we're in that part of the Gospel, according to Luke, where Jesus is moving from Galilee to Jerusalem. In fact, it's not long after this passage in chapter 19, where Jesus enters Jerusalem. So two parables, both I feel with an element of humour in them about the people involved, little vignettes that are outlined. The first one, the persistent widow, might ring bells with a number of us. When you get officials or bureaucrats or people in some sort of control position who don't respond to people who need their services or whatever. Well, lots of stories like that, and it's about persistence. I mean, this judge doesn't get a very good write-up, does he? He neither feared God nor cared about men. Oh dear. Hope that isn't an epithet that's ever applied to me. So not that I'm a judge, but anyway, the widow keeps on coming and say, come on, I've got this problem, this injustice that I need resolving, but he doesn't. But then his motivation ultimately for responding to her and meeting her needs is that isn't great either. It's really so that she'll leave him alone. He thinks, if I don't do something, she's just going to keep on forever. So there's some humour, I think, in this story, strangely. So what? How does Jesus convey the sense of this parable? It's all about persistence, isn't it? And persistence in prayer and prayers being answered, and God bringing justice to people, seeing that they get justice and quickly. So I suppose in a way, people that came to Jesus. I mean, in the passage before this, Jesus is quizzed by the Pharisees, when will the kingdom of God come? And so people have expectations. Okay, when's all this going to happen? And so this parable is very much about persistence and about things being resolved ultimately, but we need to persist in prayer. We need to be resilient and tenacious. So then we move on to the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. I also find some humour in this. The Pharisee in the temple, he's a bit full of himself, isn't he? So he stands up in front of God, but says, he's not really asking God for anything, thanking God because he's so wonderful. I'm not like other men, thank you, God, robbers, evildoers, and I'm not even like this tax collector here. I do everything I should. I fast, I pay my tithe, etc. So anyway, the tax collector, who's the Pharisee's been rather disparaging about, is a bit circumspect, isn't he, out on the edges? And his prayer is, God have mercy on me, a sinner. So this is one of these wonderful inversion sorts of things that Jesus outlines, isn't it? The person who's full of himself, the Pharisee, even though, he thinks he follows the letter of this and the letter of that, he does everything right. He's actually in a weaker position with God than the humble tax collector who recognises he's a sinner and asks for mercy. And these sorts of messages people found difficult to hear, didn't they? Jesus on his way to Jerusalem, entering Jerusalem, the shadow of the cross is kind of falling forward, isn't it, as he makes this journey, and it's because he turns these things upside down. People who think they do all the right things, and Jesus challenges that, doesn't he? And we all know where that leads. So two parables with really serious messages, although always strikes me little vignettes which have bits of humour in them about people, the judge and the rather pompous Pharisee. But as ever in the ministry of Jesus, there's always such a deep sense in them for us to reflect on. Thank you.